Welcome to the Worship Leader Hangout podcast. My name's Chad Buckland.
And I am Davin Hutchinson.
That's right. It's good to be back at a podcast, hanging out with Davin. We are going to talk about some probably pretty heavy stuff today. We're going to talk about our worst moments as a worship leader. I just thought about this because I was like, what could we talk about that might be beneficial as well as just something fun to talk about that we're, far enough removed from where we can talk about it. Does that make sense, Davin? Because I feel like, maybe a couple years ago, I couldn't talk about this,
It certainly makes sense. I am curious to see where you're going to go with it, because we can talk about our worst moment, like immediate moment, like it could be a day. It could be a mess up that was so bad, we cussed on stage or something in front of all these people.
Gosh. No, I didn't do that.
Or
Did
it can
you?
be, huh? No,
Did you curse on stage?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No. But it could be a moment like period of time.
Yeah.
So that could have been a period of time that was just really challenging for us as worship leaders. So I'm really curious to see what you're going to say. And then, I don't know, that may adjust my approach a little bit. So automatically, I think you're going first.
Oh, you can go first if you want to, but all right, I'll go first. So mine has to do with a person.
Okay.
And this is, I'm smiling. I'm look super excited, but it was actually a pretty rough moment. And I think you're right. It's definitely more of a moment of time, stretched over probably about a year for us. So our church went through a transition, and it was that, first of all, that was a rough transition. It was rough being a worship leader, part of that, going through a pastor change. And not only that, we wanted to take the church in a new, amazing direction that our pastor felt led to go in. And that was just rough within itself because of personnel and pushback. And it was just a rough time to be here. But specifically, I am talking about like a certain moment that happened within that kind of rough time period. And it does have to do with the person. I'm not going to say any names, of course. I don't think you should either. But I do finally feel like I can talk about it because I can look at it from a slightly different perspective. And I've learned and made even other mistakes since then, but I've learned from those mistakes along the way. And I think this one is pretty pivotal, or I don't know what to say there. This one's pretty important because it was kind of like a change in the way I look at people and the way I look at just being a worship leader and some of the hard things that we have to do. I had a person on my team that got gradually worse over a period of time. And by worse, I mean they started doing things that were, I guess, against our culture, our requirements, our expectations. And it's really hard to share the weight of what was going on in just, less than an hour podcast, because you kind of, it is one of those things you kind of had to be there. You kind of had to experience that. But this person, would come to a rehearsal with an attitude. This, okay, all right, well, you can get through that. You can talk to that person. And I did. I tried. This person would also come to rehearsal and Sunday morning not ready. This person would sometimes just be like, nah, I don't want to go to rehearsal. Or I'm going to show up 20 to 30 minutes late every Sunday morning, no matter what I say or do or how I encourage. This person would cut back respond with an attitude during rehearsal, like, oh, well, that's not the way I would do it, or and it's, I don't know, there may have been some things going on at the time in that person's life that I may not have known about or they didn't want to share with me about. Mm-hmm. But it began to build up, and it began to affect me and the team as a whole, because it was a real like dagger going into the side of our culture, because I wanted things to be a certain way. I wanted to get rid of music stands at a certain time, and that person was super reluctant to do that. And I did that over a period of time as well, just to, make it a lot more easy for all of our people to be able to do that. But I think it was that this guy didn't want to challenge himself. I was challenging him and other people on the team to make us better, not because I wanted to hurt them or because I wanted to see them fail, but because I wanted our team to be better and to grow and continue to raise the bar every single year or every single month even, to just be an amazing worship team, to not just to play music well or not just to sing well, but to actually have an atmosphere of worship that was engaging, inviting, amazing. There's really no other words to describe that. And I tried to relay that message over and over and over. This is why we're doing this. This is why we're doing it. And so it got to where it started eating into, like I said, the culture, and other people started really noticing this. And it got to where also I felt like I had to walk on eggshells, and I can't stand that feeling of interaction with people. And, I want to be a leader. I want to say the things I need to say, but I also need to say them and direct with love. And I knew that, and I was learning that, but it got to a point where I had to do something. Not only that, the changes and things that we were doing in the church, the same person was also related to someone else that was a part of our finance team, and they just made it insanely difficult to get anything done financially in our ministries. And they would talk about us behind our back, talk us as in the pastor and myself and others. They would say things about us to other people to try to get other people to not like us, to potentially get us fired or taken out somehow. And so there was some really toxic things starting to happen, and it started to become really hard on me.
I was going to try to see if I can summarize everything that's going on with this individual. You have a team member who's causing trouble on your team by not wanting to continue with the culture that you're trying to establish, right? So you're trying to develop this new culture. At the same time, this person is also a leader within the church, and not just any leader. They have a say in the finances of the church. And then because of their position, they're able to cause other people to look at you and your department badly.
That's pretty much it.
Gotcha.
So that was, as you could imagine, that was a pretty rough time. That was actually around the time that we started the channel the way it is now, making one-off videos and stuff like that. That was our first year where we started to expand and gain subscribers, stuff like that. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but I think there was some jealousy there because he also assisted in leading worship when they didn't have a worship leader, as well as another guy that just left a month after I started 7 years ago. And I think it just, I guess he just didn't realize what would happen when I started, as far as me taking ownership of this team and this ministry and just running with it. I think he just kind of thought it would be maybe another year or two, and then that person will move on. Talking about me, I'll move on, and then somebody else will come in, and I guess he just didn't realize I was in it for the long haul. And
you've been at your church 7 years now, right?
Yeah, 7 years, a couple weeks ago. So yeah, and
that's
what I do.
Granddaddy and leadership years nowadays, unfortunately.
Granddaddy.
Yeah.
Papa Chad.
Yeah.
So
that's exactly what they're going to call you.
It was tough. It was a tough time. I approached my pastor about it, and he was fresh as the pastor as well. And he said, I want you to keep doing what you're doing. And if you feel like that person doesn't need to be on your team anymore, then let them know.
Mm-hmm.
What? You want me to let somebody know I don't want them on my team? I've never had to do that. And it took me probably 2 months to figure this out. And I didn't figure anything out. I just kind of prayed about it, worried about it, kept getting anxious about it. And then all the while, they kept doing the same thing, showing up insanely late on Sunday morning. I need you here at 8. Yeah, I'll get there when I get there because of my family and this and that. Oh, okay. Great. Thanks. Or, hey, let's learn this part. Oh, well, I'll just figure it out in rehearsal. Oh, great. Thanks. I
think sorry to interrupt, but I think viewers might want to understand that this was technically like your first full-time position, right? Was it even full-time at the time?
I don't even think I was full-time yet.
Yeah, I don't think you were
full-time.
I
was yet. No.
And this was only your second church.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, you were young. I mean, this was 7 years ago. So, yeah, kicking somebody off your team.
That's about 4 years ago.
Oh, it was 4 years ago. Oh, wow. Okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
But still.
I was like 29.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was tough. I never had to do that. Just the thought of asking someone to step down from the team was just completely foreign. And my pastor reminded me of some scripture. He reminded me of Matthew 10, starting in 16. Behold, I'm sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Beware of men, for they will deliver you over to courts and flog you with their synagogues. Blah, blah, blah. So of course, Jesus was talking to his disciples, talking about, because you follow me, you'll be persecuted. But he's like, just take a lesson from that, and be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. So he said, approach this wisely. And then even later on, Jesus was telling them, when they deliver you over, do not be anxious how you are to speak or what you are to say, for you are to say, I can't even read today. Sorry. For what you are to say will be given to you in that hour, for it is not you who will speak, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. And so I prayed about it. I thought about it a lot, and I overthought about it, I'm sure. And finally, one day, I was like, today's the day. I got to make this happen, because he was avoiding my phone calls. He was avoiding meeting with me, because I tried to meet with him for a couple weeks before this. And it was always something. You know how some people are. They're like, oh, no, I got to do this, or I got to do that. I can't make that, or whatever. And so I finally just said, I don't want to do this on a Sunday. It's not like, I hate having to do something like this, especially before rehearsal, or not before rehearsal, but before service. This was after we had practiced. And I said, this is the only time I have. I can corner him in a little office that he sorts through mail and other stuff, because he was a part of the finance team. And so I did. I walked in there and, as like old country people would say, prayed up. I walked in there and I was just like, can I talk to you for a second? And I'm telling you, he was like doing sure, whatever. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to sit down. And it was like me having a conversation with a wall that was not paying attention to me, ripping over open letters as I was talking, just being loud and, just like moving around stuff. And I said, are you okay? And I just tried to like talk to him. It got to a point where I couldn't even talk to the man. And he wasn't that much older than me at all. So we were, pretty close in age. Well, I guess we still are. And I said, well, I want to let you know that I'm not happy with these things. And I don't know if I handled it right. And, there's some things I would definitely change if I had to do that again. And I had to do that again, not too recently, maybe a couple years ago now. And I handled it a lot different. Not a lot. I handled it different, and it went over better. And that person is, not necessarily at our church, but if I see them, it's not a big deal. But anyway, I said, I pointed out what I didn't like, what he was, basically doing. I also pointed out things that he probably didn't know that I knew about, the things he was saying behind my back, about me, Pastor Mark. And I just said, this is not where I want to go in the culture of our team. And I want you to know that. And I want you to decide if, you want to be a part of this team. And if you do, then this is not how we're going to be. This is how we're going to be with these particular things.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, he didn't really say anything. He's like, I don't know what to tell you. And I said, well, do you want to take a break for a little while? And we can meet, maybe in a month and talk about it. He's like, whatever you want to do. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? He has no care in the world for this.
Yeah.
He's been playing on the College Park worship team for Lord knows how long, and he has no care in the world for making something good happen, in this. So I'm just like, well, that's what I want to do. I want you to take a break for 1 month, and I will meet with you, and we'll make this happen. We'll meet, we'll talk about it. But starting today, let's just have you worship with everyone else and take a break from the worship team. And we'll meet up. He's like, whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Great talk. And I just got out of there, and he continued to do the things behind my back. A small group that we had at the time, Pastor Mark quickly dissolved because it was basically just a session where they're bashing all of us that are in leadership. And so, and finally, so then a month later, I call him, I text him, I go up to him at church and I'm like, hey, I want to meet with you. Never tried, not even tried to meet with me or text me back or gave me a call back or just said, I'll have to let you know. Like when I asked him in person, I'll just have to let you know. I'm like, okay, let me know. I want to meet with you. Just never did. And they left the church about a month after that. And I haven't talked to him or seen him since. And I tell you what, I was worried because, when you have an electric guitarist, it's a great thing in your worship team. But it was crazy because once I let him go, and I did a video about this in a roundabout way. It was called Why They Quit. And it's a long time ago. You should check it out. But once he released from the team, 2 amazing families not joined necessarily, but started coming to our church not even 2 months after that. And I can say their names, the Browns and the Wilsons. They are incredible, incredible people. Not only were they incredible people, the son is a drummer, still our current drummer. This was 2017. His dad is one of our electric guitarists. And then the Wilsons, I'll just say the dad is Scott. He is a bass player, and he played for a long time, and then he just started playing again at the women's conference. So if you see that video, there's a video coming up hopefully soon. The bass player, that's him. He's an incredible guy. And then he brought a daughter that sang on the team for a little while. She's at another church doing her thing. But then he also has another daughter that just so happens to be my current worship leader intern for the church. She's also working a little bit for the channel as our executive assistant. You know her, Maddie Wilson. Yeah. And it just, if the other person would have stayed on the team, or if I would have put up with that for much longer, I just don't know that that would have divinely happened the way it happened, but I don't control things. God controls it. I don't know. It was beautiful how it worked out. They saw a need. They're like, hey, we noticed, you don't have an electric guitarist. We'd love to audition. Yes, absolutely. Let's audition. And it was an incredible time. So, yeah, that was my story. So it's funny how, some of the worst moments led to some of the best people.
Yeah.
And the hardest thing I ever had to do, at least at that point of time, was to let somebody go. And I didn't ever have to say, you're fired. He just decided not to meet with me. And then, of course, they decided to leave the church later after that. But it was rough. And I'm beating myself up all the time during that time period. Like, what am I doing wrong? What am I saying wrong? Like, how do I correct something in a song if he's just going to look at me like that or say those things in a rehearsal? Like, I'm the director. I need to be able to say things that need to be fixed, without somebody coming back at me like, I've offended them. I'm like, I'm talking about the music we're playing, not your hair, So it's just, yeah. And that's the culture I wanted to build and continue to build. And it had to be built without that person on the team.
Yeah.
And so,
so
it was tough.
Something I was trying to look it up while you were talking, because I believe that there's a verse of scripture that it man, I don't know if it's 1 Corinthians 5:13, but I can't remember exactly, but it's about removing people from among yourselves within the body of Christ to save the rest of the body, right? Or like a lot of people may know the analogy of, if someone has cancer, you remove the cancer to save the rest of the body.
Yeah.
Or when Jesus talks about, cut off your arm, right? So that the rest of your body does not perish in hell. Well, that analogy can be taken for our teams. Sometimes we have to remove people from our teams to save our team, right? Like, or the entire team will be destroyed. And then you destroy a worship team, I promise you, that's probably already filtered through the church, So you got to make sure like your main teams are healthy to make sure that the rest of the body is healthy. So I think you did the right thing. It's a hard thing, but I guess cutting out anything is always hard, right? Cutting off an arm isn't easy. Cutting out cancer, right? Like I've never known anyone personally with cancer, at least close to me, but I don't assume that the experience of surgery is an easy one. So it's all a difficult process.
No.
I wouldn't say that mine are that I think I may come at a different approach, and I may just talk about 3 different events as being a worship leader where it was just a bad day, and the reason for that is maybe some of my experiences of being a worship leader that were more that have like, it was a longer period of time. It might be a little bit too soon to talk about some of those, but
yeah, you have to balance it out. It's hard to talk about the things that just happened.
Yeah, and I love where I'm at right now. I must say I love where I'm at, and I've always been at churches where people have treated me with the greatest deal of respect and love and support. That doesn't mean that there weren't challenges there at some of those places, but I love where I'm at right now. But I'm going to talk about like my first church and just some of the stupid things I did, right? Like
I've done some stupid things too.
The idiocy. See, I'm such an idiot. I can't even pronounce idiot correctly or whatever. But okay,
that was your first church, so you got to pass.
My first church, and then my second one too, and I'm at my third, and I pray I don't have any more. So I was at my first church, my first Easter.
Oh gosh.
We were preparing for it, and I mean, we were getting the band ready and doing all these things, and I had to like switch out a drummer at the last minute because my drummer said he couldn't play anymore, something like that. And the new guy, quite frankly, sucked. I mean, just trash. He didn't
That's an
really
office
last
joke.
that long. And I mean, we're gearing up for Easter. I remember that week we also had we had to deliver signs. It was my first time like dropping off signs in neighborhoods and trying to post signs and stuff. And it was just a lot of work dealing with all the signs. Anyway, we're gearing up that week for Easter. Sunday rolls up and I woke up late.
Oh no, not on Easter.
Easter. I woke up late.
Oh my
Do you know
gosh.
how late?
Jeez.
As I walked inside, service is starting. Like there's no, as I walk inside, that was the first time and
That's
the last
the
time
dreams that we have.
Say it again?
Have you ever had those dreams?
Yes, it was a dream.
That's the dreams.
Exactly. It's the fear that you have of, oh my gosh, I got to make sure I'm at church on time. Like, it really happened for real. As I walked in, and this is not those, I mean, we just need to be frank, okay? This is not one of those churches where you can show up, you know, in like when church starts and then you're good to go. No. There's a lot of preparation that goes. You practice with your band that week. You practice with them that morning. Well, guess what? There was no rehearsal. It was just, I literally walked in, grabbed the mic, and good morning, church. So glad to see you here today. I just got here and it was, your mind wasn't ready. It was
on Easter Sunday.
On Easter Sunday.
I'd be faking everything.
Yes, it
I'd
was.
Be like, good morning. So I've been here all morning.
Yeah, we sounded like garbage. Like, just garbage. So that never happened again. I promise you. That never happened again. And I hope that never happens again. I try to be
the worst moment ever.
Yeah. So that was a really bad one.
I was talking about people. That's the worst.
Huh?
I said I was talking about like personnel, but that's the worst right there.
Yeah.
Like there are visitors coming for the first time.
Exactly.
That church that morning.
Easter Sunday. Now, this being said, though, it was the 8 a.m. service. So and we don't normally have an 8 a.m. service, right? Like at that church. Like, Easter, you have more services because more people showing up. And so it was wow. It was horrible. So that was a really bad Sunday. And then another Sunday that was really bad was, I get to church on a Sunday and I practice with the band. And then I go to my office to try to like relax my mind a little bit. Because that's when I lead worship the best. Not when I'm flustered or been in the moment, but when I have maybe at least 10 minutes to just clear my head, to think about what God has done for me, and then to lead the people after that, right? Like I can lead my band, lead the people. Well, I go to my office, and while I'm in my office, somebody brings me the headset like this. I'm trying to figure out why did they bring me the headset? And so I say, man, take this to pastor. Like, this is for pastor. And then a couple of minutes later, the person comes back in and they're like, pastor said this is for you. For me. Yeah, he said you're preaching. That to lead
worship.
Huh?
Oh, snap.
I didn't know I was preaching that week. Pastor told me, I remember he told me, but at least from Wednesday to Sunday, something just left my mind. Man. No sermon prepared, nothing.
Wow, that's when you talk about worship and how the importance of worship.
Yeah, and
you
this
can almost
is when
talk about that every day.
Yeah, this was my first church. This is when you were in
Florida.
This is when you were in Florida. Yeah, you still would have been in Florida. And how long were you in Florida?
We were in Florida from 11 to 13. So 11 to end of 13.
11 to 13. Okay, no, you would have moved to, uh,
Oh, for real?
yeah, South
Yeah, because you
Carolina.
stayed in California for a little while after I moved to South Carolina.
Yeah. You would have been in South Carolina at this point. And anyway, man, I had to go to him and say, "Sir, I don't have a sermon," and neither did he. But he was the pastor with more experience, so he just took it, and it was one of those. He preached for about 15 minutes, and then there was like a time of prayer. But you know,
Yeah.
that's when you're like, you know, you've been doing it a while, and you're ready to go, as the scripture says, be prepared in season and out of season.
Yeah.
So I said, I would never let that happen again. And then the third one, and this is the final one. I'm at my church when I, you know, was working at a Methodist church, and it was a very different experience there in terms of like worship. First church was Pentecostal, and Methodism is not Pentecostalism, although they are related in some ways historically. Well, I'm at the Methodist church, and often I would bring guests. So this was the first time I was used to, like, you know, bringing a guest on a Sunday, and I would do this every quarter. So every quarter I'd bring a guest. And so one guest was
Okay.
a friend of mine who was a saxophone player. And we rehearsed before service. We straight kill it. And I'm thinking like we're going to bring a different like experience to worship that morning, because, you know, it was more of a gospel sound versus what we did there was, you know, very like choral, sacred music. So I'm thinking, you know, the people are going to enjoy it. It's going to be a great experience. I'm so excited to have this guy. I prepared in my head what I was going to say when he got on the mic. And a few moments before service, I saw his saxophone had been left on top of the piano in the choir room. So I decided, well, hey, that shouldn't be there. Let me go ahead and move it for my friend so I can put it on his case on the ground. Why did I do that, Chad? Why did I do that? I touched that saxophone, man, and it dropped. Ugh. And I'm thinking, but it dropped, but it didn't really drop that hard. So I was like, okay, it's fine. Everything's gonna be okay. He goes to grab the sax. We're literally, the countdown timer is on. We're ready to go. He starts to play it right before, and he's like, "Hey, man, nothing's coming out." And I was like, "Oh man, what happened to your sax? Like, everything was fine." He was like, "Did you drop it by any chance when you moved it to the on the case?" And I was like, "Man, I did, but it didn't really hit that hard." And so he was like, "Man, yeah, it's a really sensitive saxophone." So he's like, any little thing could mess it up. And so right before we're about to go on, I'm not kidding, I had to say, "Church, get up in front of the congregation. I'm so sorry, but this morning, you know," and we've been promoting this, man. Like, you know, I invited my friend here to play saxophone this morning, and I broke his sax right before this happened. So he's not gonna play, but he actually sung, and he did a great job, and you know, it worked out. But yeah, those were some awful experiences. And I guess I'm trying to think of, you know, what did I learn? I think from the first two, I learned like there's nothing that can replace experience. And so I realized that a more seasoned person would have probably like made sure they went to bed the night before on Easter Sunday. Like their mind was clear. They had all their timers set, not just one, but two. It's a really important day. And they just wouldn't have been like, you know, it would have taken a lot more. It would have been a really catastrophic event. For me, it was simple. I didn't have an alarm. That was it. Like, but now, you know, I have like 3 alarms that wake me up for regular Sunday morning. You know what I'm saying? So just to be more prepared, I think, for that Sunday. And then trying to remember what the other event was I told you about. Hold on. Oh, the Sunday I was supposed to preach. So something that I try to do now is I always double check what's happening this week. What's happening this week?
Yeah.
I check on Monday, I check on Wednesday, and then I send out something else on Thursday. And especially when I'm the one in charge, because the worst thing you can do for someone is tell them, hey, when you're leading them, they have no idea what's happening, right? And sometimes you may have clearly stated it, but you want to state it in multiple places. So, we go to white churches now. We use Planning Center. So everything's on Planning Center, and not just Planning Center, but I send out a text message. I call people. I check in with them. Hey, how you doing? How's the music coming along? I try to do those things. So just to make sure. And then I double check with the people who are over me. Hey, are we clear on what's happening? So double checking. And then on that last one, man, just don't touch nobody's instrument.
No.
Don't touch anyone's keyboard. Because you know what I hate about jumping on a keyboard after somebody? When they put it on transpose and you don't know, you didn't know.
The worst.
And you started, and then it's like, what do I do? Right? So
you gotta figure out where you are and just play in the other key.
Yeah.
But did you not learn when you were a kid, you should have put the horn back on the piano?
Yeah.
And then you could be like, I don't know what he did, but he broke his saxophone.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
No, I'm just playing. No, you need to admit it. If you made that mistake, you got to admit it. It is what it is. I think we got time for one more.
One more?
Since you were naming stuff, one more, but for me.
Okay, gotcha.
Since you were this is like one of those moments. You were talking about stuff like that happened. I was redoing the sound booth at my first church, the one in Florida. And I probably told you this before, but I was redoing the sound booth. I had a guy that was going to paint it. He was doing some structural work, and he was going to paint it. And he said, what do you want me to do about the equipment? We had, an old school analog soundboard. We had a computer. We had the screen, all that stuff. And I said, okay, well, just move the stuff where to where you can actually paint what you need to paint, and then let me know when you're done, and I can kind of, walk you through. If you've unplugged anything, I can help you, plug it back in or whatever if you don't know where it goes. But just move only what you have to. I thought I was abundantly clear. Just move what you have to, and then we'll go from there. No big deal. Because he was just doing like fixing something and then just doing some like primer stuff. So it wasn't even fully painted yet. Mm-hmm. And because we were going to get in there and like move everything to fully paint it black, put some lights in it, just make it look cool. I get there on Sunday morning, right? We started at that church as well. We started at 8 a.m. I get there and I walk up to the sound booth to turn stuff on, and I start seeing cables on the floor. I walk a little further. I'm like, it's a balcony, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what are all these cables? And I just started looking up. It's just one of those like movie moments where you just look up and you look along the balcony floor, and it's just cable after cable and connection and device here and device there. Oh, the soundboard is like way over here, all the way across the balcony. I see amps sitting out. Mm-hmm. I see the computer over here, and I'm like, we've been robbed. Somebody tried to rob us. Yeah. And I'm like, everything's here. And I go around to the soundboard. I'm thinking, surely not. I go around the soundboard, completely empty. And it's Sunday morning, and it's like 8:05.
What happened?
They had unplugged every single thing and laid it across the balcony.
Oh my God.
To work on the sound booth. And I'm like, man, what do I do? I start and I had never done this at that church. This has never happened where I had to put everything back together. Yeah. I do it at least once a year here just to know and to clean up. I like to redo everything at least once a year when we do the stage design. Mm-hmm. So if it were to happen here, it's not going to happen here. But if it were to happen here, it'd be like, oh yeah. So I'm kind of freaking out because the amps were hardwired. That was unplugged. Everything was absolutely insane. Thankfully, I did have experience setting up sound systems. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to figure this out for this morning and then take it all apart and then put it all back together when we paint the booth. It took me 2 hours. Service started, I think, at 10:30. It took me 2 hours. It wasn't until 10 o'clock when I was done getting everything, because nobody knew what to do. I barely knew what to do. I'd only been there a year. And so I was like, okay, sound comes into the board from the stage box. So let's plug in the snake. It goes from the board to the amps. Let's get that going. And then from the amps goes out to the speakers, blah, blah, blah. Just basic sound stuff. And I just had to like piece things together and figure it out. I had the soundboard sitting up on like a little table somewhere on the balcony. I had the amp, like it was just a complete mess. And man, if
that happened at our church, dude, I promise you, I wouldn't know what to do. It is so, it is too complex. Like it is not normal. I'm telling you, like
you're right. Now looking back, what I would have done looking back is just somehow figure out, okay, let's just plug in the soundboard. Let's get the snake plugged in, but I'm only going to worry about 2 mics, pastor's mic and my mic, and making sure that it's actually running to the speakers. And I would have just said, we're just doing hymns this morning, no band. Because this was the type of church where we did 1 or 2 hymns, and then we did like a 2 to 3 song set with a contemporary band. So I would have just been like, hymns only. I'll figure this out this week. But see, that right there taught me, first of all, know how to put together a sound system. But it also taught me to over communicate, because I thought I communicated, just move what you have to move, and I'll help you make sure it gets backward. And so then I find out, I'm like, what happened? I go to this person, I'm like, what happened? Please just explain something. Like, I'm not mad. We'll figure it out. It all had to be taken apart anyway. Maybe not that much. Every single cable was unplugged. Anyway. And he said, well, my wife got in there with me, and I told her to let's just start moving stuff. And she just started unplugging everything. And I'm like, everything? And like, I knew that because I saw it from my own eyes, or with my own eyes. I was like, you don't have to unplug the amps when it's sitting right next to the wall. It's just like, that doesn't need to be touched, And I didn't say all this. I didn't blow up on anybody. I just said, okay, well, thank you. I'm going to need your help putting all this back together.
Yeah.
And so he was gracious. He was like, yeah, I'll help. And so we both got in there after church, after I'd, just, I don't even know what you would cut. There's no verb to describe what I did to get that working that Sunday. It wasn't great. But it happened. And so we got back in there, we painted the booth, man. I have a picture somewhere on an old phone what this thing looks like, but it was so cool. And it was a great experience. Learned to over communicate, and I learned probably, a lot about sound that day. A lot more than I even realized, especially with hardwiring amps and, that kind of thing. I just, learned a lot. It was fun.
No, that's cool, man.
In that moment, oh my gosh, I just had to tell the band, we can't have rehearsal. I've got to figure this out. And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
So it was, whew. Anyway, that was my last. That was probably, I didn't think about that because I didn't think about it in like an emotional, like worse moment. But that probably is like one of those dreams where you get to church.
Yeah.
And your dream, like this is a dream that I dream
nightmare.
On an occasion.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare. Yeah. You get to church, either A, nothing's set up, nobody knows what to do, and it's 5 minutes before service. Also, it could be that, plus you're not wearing any clothes, and I have these dreams, and I'm just like, what is God trying to tell me through this?
My biggest fear is swearing in front of a lot of people.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I am paranoid. Like
whether you don't swear or not. I mean, You
I
could say something in it.
Yeah, you say the wrong thing. And then, like there are words you might say in your house that you don't say in public. They're not swear words or whatever, but look, it's your
Yeah,
home.
yeah.
You're allowed to say what you want to say. And so, yeah, I
We're not
have
going to get into those words right
yeah,
now.
yeah. I just have a concern about that. But anyway, so, but I would say what maybe next time we can talk about just your worst, your worst mess ups, just period on the job. Because these were all like worship leader related.
That'd be fun.
But I've also been, worship leader / youth pastor, which is still sort of my job now. Worship leader for students. Anyway, so yeah, there's been a lot of stuff I've done that, oh my gosh, run out of gas with the kids.
Like the worst mess ups. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just on stage, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So cool.
Yeah, we might talk about that. That might be our next podcast. So stay tuned. Subscribe if you're not already. We are on Google, Spotify, and iTunes. So go check us out over there. Everywhere you do podcasts except for some of them. as other people say. They're like, wherever you get podcasts. Well, not for us. We're only on those 3.
Yeah, that's all who would take us right now.
That's right. Yeah, that's all we got. But thank you so much for watching and or listening. We love you guys. Remember, great worship leaders are always learning. Go out there and make some mistakes and learn. Yeah. That's what it's all about.
Very true. That's exactly how you learn.
That's right. All right, man. I'll talk to you later. Love you.